I didn't know my life would split into a before and an after on a Sunday morning. Not with a scream, not with flashing lights, but with the way my fiancé wouldn't look at me. I had just returned from my sister's wedding. My dress still smelled like hotel soap and champagne, my suitcase half unpacked by the door. I was tired in that soft, happy way you are after family events. Too many hugs, too many photos, too many promises about the future. Ethan was supposed to pick me up from the airport. Instead, I found him sitting on the edge of our bed, fully dressed, shoes still on, staring at the floor like it might open up and swallow him. "Hey," I said softly, "what's wrong?" He didn't answer. That was the first moment I felt it. That quiet, crawling dread sliding down my spine. The kind that tells you something is deeply, irrevocably wrong. Ethan had gone to his best friend Oscar's birthday party the night before. A small gathering, nothing wild. Just friends from an online gaming group, finally meeting in person. He had texted me throughout the day. Photos, jokes, a short video of everyone laughing in the kitchen. Normal. Safe. Then he came home at 2 in the morning, sick, shaking, refusing to talk. I'd taken the day off work to take care of him. I brought him water, toast, sat beside him while he stared at the wall. I told myself he just drank too much, that he'd talk when he was ready. I didn't know then that I was sitting next to the ruins of the future we were building. 5 years together, an engagement ring already hidden in my desk drawer, wedding plans that lived in the quiet spaces between us. That night, Ethan finally spoke, and with one trembling sentence, he shattered everything I thought I understood about love, trust, and how cruel people can be when someone is too vulnerable to fight back. He told me that 4 women had taken advantage of him while he couldn't consent. And when he finally found the courage to tell his parents, they blamed him. I've been sitting at my desk for 3 hours now, staring at my computer screen, unable to work, unable to breathe properly. My boss has already checked on me twice. I keep telling everyone I'm fine, but nothing is fine anymore. Because once you know the person you love was broken by people you trusted, there is no going back to who you were before. I'm 26. I work as a project coordinator for a mid-sized firm. Deadlines, meetings, spreadsheets, the kind of job that makes you feel like life is tidy if you keep everything color-coded. Ethan is 25, and the first thing people notice about him is how gentle he is. Not weak, not naive, just soft in the way that makes you feel safe. The kind of man who holds doors without making a show of it, who remembers your coffee order after hearing it once, who apologizes to strangers when he bumps shoulders in a crowded hallway. I met him during our sophomore year of college. It was a Tuesday. The library smelled like paper and stale air conditioning. I was sitting under the fluorescent lights with a biology textbook open, rewriting my notes for the 3rd time because anxiety had convinced me the first 2 versions were not good enough. Ethan walked past my table 4 times. 4. I noticed because by the 3rd time I started thinking, either he's lost or he's building up courage. By the 4th pass, he finally stopped. "Hi," he said, voice careful, like he didn't want to scare me away. I keep walking by because I'm trying to figure out how to say this without sounding weird. I looked up, half annoyed, half curious. Then don't make it weird. His mouth twitched into a nervous smile. "Okay, I'm Ethan, and you look like you're about to fight that textbook in the parking lot." I laughed, an actual laugh, surprised and unplanned, and something in my chest loosened. That was it. That was the beginning. We started studying together. Then we started eating together. Then it became normal for him to be the person I texted first when something good happened, and the person I reached for when something went wrong. But Ethan didn't come from the kind of family that treated love casually. His parents were deeply religious. Church every Sunday, Bible verses framed on the walls, purity discussed like it was a currency you could spend once and never earn back. They raised him with strict rules about dating, relationships, especially physical intimacy. Early into us becoming official, Ethan told me, quietly, like he was bracing for me to laugh. "I want to wait until marriage, he said. Not because I don't want you. I do. But it matters to my parents, and I was raised believing it matters to God." I remember staring at him, trying to figure out if he was testing me. "What do you want?" I asked. His eyes didn't flinch. "I want us. I want this to be real. I just want to do it the way I promised I would." I wasn't particularly religious, but I loved him. And love, to me, had always meant choosing someone's heart over your own impatience. So I said, "Then we wait." And I meant it. Over the years, I never pressured him. We had our own ways of being close, hands threaded together in movie theaters, his forehead against mine when the world felt too loud, long conversations in the dark, where it felt like we were building a home out of trust. Last year, after he graduated, I started saving seriously. I wanted to propose. I didn't tell anyone because I wanted it to be a surprise, just mine, just ours. I found the ring at a small jeweler downtown. Simple, a modest diamond. Exactly Ethan's style. Understated, classic, Shyam, something you'd wear every day without fear. I bought it and hid it in my desk drawer like it was a secret heartbeat. The only thing that ever truly threatened our peace was Oscar. Oscar was Ethan's best friend from high school. Loud, charming, always the kind of person who could turn a room into a stage. Ethan's parents never liked him. They said he was a bad influence, that he didn't share their values. Ethan didn't care. "He's been there for me," he'd say, when nobody else was. At first, I tried to respect that. I didn't want to be the kind of woman who demanded someone cut off friendships just because I felt insecure. But over time, I started noticing the pattern. Oscar didn't like boundaries. Oscar didn't like being told no. Oscar liked being the center of Ethan's world, like he deserved to be. 2 years ago, it became our worst fight. I asked Ethan, gently at first, if he could stop spending time alone with Oscar, because something about Oscar's energy made my stomach tighten. Ethan got upset. "You're trying to control me," he said. And I remember swallowing hard, trying not to sound like a stereotype. "I'm not trying to control you," I said. "I'm trying to protect what we have, because I don't trust him." In the end, we compromised. Ethan would only hang out with Oscar in group settings, not one-on-one. It felt like a solution. It felt like we'd handled the problem like adults. And for a while, I believed we were safe. I didn't know safety can be an illusion. That you can do everything right, love someone well, respect their boundaries, build a future with careful hands, and still have the world rip it away in one night. After Oscar transferred to a college 3 hours away, life was supposed to calm down. On the surface, it did. No more awkward double hangouts. No more tense silences when Oscar's name popped up on Ethan's phone. Distance gave us breathing room. And for a while, I let myself believe the problem had resolved itself. But distance doesn't erase influence. It just changes its shape. Ethan stayed in contact with Oscar through Discord. Voice chats, gaming sessions, shared servers full of people whose real names I didn't know. Mostly women, he told me. Mostly harmless. Just friends who played games and joked late into the night. I trusted him. I always had. That trust, though, began to feel heavier. Some nights, Ethan would be laughing through his headset when I came home, his voice brighter than usual, more animated. When I asked what was funny, he'd pause, remove one ear cup, and say, "Oh, just something stupid someone said." Someone, not a name, not a story. Just someone. I didn't push. I didn't want to become the kind of partner who interrogated happiness out of someone else's life. Still, I started noticing the small shifts. The way he'd angle his laptop away when he typed, the way conversations ended abruptly when I entered the room. Nothing concrete, nothing I could point to and say, "This is wrong." Just that familiar tightening in my chest, the same one I'd felt 2 years earlier when Oscar's presence had crept too close to the center of our relationship. 3 weeks before everything collapsed, Oscar invited Ethan to his birthday party. 25, small gathering. At his apartment. Ethan asked if I could come. I wanted to say yes. But I already had plans. My sister's wedding out of state, bridesmaid duties, flights booked months in advance, a weekend I couldn't cancel even if I wanted to. When Ethan asked if it was okay for him to go alone, I hesitated just long enough for him to notice. "I don't want you to feel weird about this," he said quickly. "Oscar invited everyone from the server, and he has a girlfriend now. She'll be there." Girlfriend. That word was supposed to soothe me. Instead, it landed flat, like a rehearsed reassurance. I searched his face for something. Guilt, excitement, uncertainty. But all I saw was the same gentle honesty I'd trusted for years. So I nodded. "Okay," I said, "go, have fun." I told myself I was being mature, secure, supportive. Saturday morning, Ethan texted me when he left. Another message when he arrived. A photo of cupcakes someone had brought. A joke about the music being too loud. Normal. Throughout the day, he sent small updates. Nothing excessive, nothing secretive. He said he planned to drive home around 9 or 10. By the time 9 rolled around, I was at the wedding reception. Laughter, speeches, champagne flutes clinking together. I checked my phone once. No new messages. I didn't text him. I didn't want to be that woman. 10 passed. Then 11. When the reception ended, I went back to my hotel room, kicked off my heels, and checked our shared location app. Ethan was still at Oscar's apartment. I told myself not to panic. At 11, his location started moving. Relief washed over me until I realized he wasn't heading home. His dot on the map drifted in the opposite direction, looping through unfamiliar streets, stopping, starting again. I sat on the edge of the hotel bed, watching the screen glow in the dark. An hour passed. My heart thudded too loud in my chest, every rational thought drowned out by one question I couldn't stop asking. Why isn't he coming home? Just after midnight, his location finally turned toward our city. I didn't sleep. I watched the app until his dot settled at his apartment at 2 a.m. I didn't text him then either. I convinced myself he must be exhausted, maybe sick from drinking, maybe just overwhelmed. I told myself I'd ask in the morning. I didn't know that by the time morning came, the man I loved would already be slipping away from me, quietly, painfully, without knowing how to tell me why. I called Ethan the next morning at 9. It rang until voicemail. A few minutes later, my phone buzzed. Sorry, sleeping. I feel awful, hungover. I sat up so fast the hotel sheets tangled around my legs. Hungover. Ethan didn't drink. Not socially. Not casually. Not ever. He'd turned down champagne at graduations, laughed off beer at parties, always with the same easy line. It's just not my thing. So that single word, hungover, hit me like ice water. Are you okay? I texted back. There was a long pause before his reply. I'll talk to you later. That was all. I spent the rest of the wedding event smiling when people spoke to me, nodding when they congratulated my sister, but my mind stayed locked on that message. Something felt wrong in a way I couldn't name yet, like standing on a cracked floor before you hear it give way. When I got home Sunday night, the apartment was dark. Ethan was in my bed. He had a key, so that part wasn't strange, but he had his own place across town. He rarely stayed over without telling me first. I turned on the bedside lamp. He flinched. Can you turn that off? He said quickly. His voice sounded brittle, thinner than usual, like it might snap if pushed too hard. I sat on the edge of the bed. Why are you here? Why didn't you stay at your place? He didn't answer. He pulled the blanket over his head. A knot formed in my throat. Ethan, I said softly, please, talk to me. His shoulders started shaking. Then he cried. Not quietly, not with restraint. Full-body sobs that felt too big for the small, dim room. I turned the light off and stepped back, my heart pounding, my mind racing through possibilities I wasn't ready to face. I left the room because I didn't know what else to do. The next week blurred into something unreal. Ethan didn't leave my apartment. He called in sick to work every single day. He barely ate. He stayed in bed with the curtains drawn, like the world outside was too dangerous to face. I went to work, but came home on my lunch breaks to check on him. Each time, he was exactly where I'd left him, staring at the wall, eyes empty, body tense. I asked him again and again what happened. He wouldn't answer. And slowly, another fear crept in beneath my worry for his health. Something bad happened. Not cheating. Not a mistake. Something darker. Something he couldn't bring himself to say out loud. Saturday night, I woke to the sound of crying. Ethan was sitting on the edge of the bed, his hands pressed against his face, breath hitching like he couldn't get enough air. I sat up and waited. I didn't rush him. I didn't ask questions. I just stayed. After a long time, he whispered, I don't know how to tell you. My chest tightened. Just tell me the truth. He swallowed hard. I'm scared you'll leave. I reached for his hand. I won't. Not for telling me the truth. That was when he finally broke. He told me about the party, about someone offering him a drink, about saying no at first, about Oscar and others laughing, insisting it was just one shot, just for his birthday, that it would wear off quickly. He told me how one drink turned into many, how people kept handing him glasses he didn't remember asking for, how everything started to blur. He told me he felt sick, dizzy, wrong. He remembered people passed out on couches, laughter echoing too loudly, Oscar saying he felt bad and offering to drive him home in his own car. He remembered another woman offering to follow them so Oscar wouldn't have to leave the party. Then another. Then another. 4 women in total. Ethan's voice shook as he spoke. He remembered water pressed into his hands, someone laughing as they helped him up the stairs to his apartment, hands on his arms, voices too close. Then fragments. His body hurting, not knowing what was happening, not being able to stop it. When he finally looked at me, his eyes were red and hollow. I'm sorry, he whispered. I ruined everything. My brain couldn't process it. I don't understand, I said slowly. I had sex with all 4 of them, he said, the words tumbling out like poison. I don't remember most of it. I didn't know what was happening, and his voice cracked. I gave away something I was saving for marriage. He begged me not to leave him, begged me not to make him go back to his apartment. I sat there frozen, my heart screaming this isn't what it sounds like, while my mind struggled to catch up. Because nothing about what he described sounded like choice. It sounded like something had been taken from him. And in that moment, I realized the worst thing hadn't happened at the party. The worst thing was that neither of us yet understood what it truly was. After Ethan finished speaking, the room went painfully quiet. No dramatic yelling, no accusations, no sudden clarity. Just the sound of my own heartbeat, loud and uneven, like my body was trying to warn me of something my mind still couldn't name. I didn't know what to say. Part of me wanted to wrap my arms around him and promise everything would be okay. Another part of me, smaller, uglier, born from fear, kept repeating the same brutal thought. 4 people, 1 night, everything gone. I hated myself for thinking it. Ethan watched my face like he was bracing for impact, like a man waiting for a verdict he already believed he deserved. I need time, I finally said. My voice sounded distant, even to me. I just need time to think. His shoulders sagged in relief and devastation at the same time. He nodded, crawled back under the covers, and turned away from me. I didn't sleep that night. I sat on the couch, knees pulled to my chest, replaying his words over and over. The details tangled in my head. Drinks, laughter, being carried, not remembering. My brain kept trying to simplify it into something easier to digest. Cheating, mistake, bad choices. But none of those labels fit. Cheating involves intention, consent, awareness. What Ethan described sounded like confusion, pressure, loss of control. Still, the word sex clung to my thoughts like a stain I couldn't scrub out. I hated that my first reaction wasn't clarity or righteousness, but confusion, because confusion felt like betrayal of him. By morning, I was exhausted in a way sleep couldn't fix. I went to work anyway. I stared at my computer screen for hours, rereading the same email without understanding it. My boss stopped by twice, asking if I was okay. I nodded both times, lying with the kind of ease that comes when truth feels too heavy to carry openly. All day, my mind swung between extremes. He didn't choose this, but something still happened. He's broken, but so is what we were building. I felt guilty for even questioning him, guilty for imagining walking away, guilty for imagining staying and never being able to unsee what he told me. By late afternoon, my chest felt tight enough to hurt. I left work early. When I got home, Ethan was still in bed, staring at the ceiling like it might answer questions neither of us knew how to ask yet. I sat beside him. Without a word, I reached for his hand. He flinched, just slightly, and that tiny movement broke something in me. I held him. We cried together, the kind of crying that leaves your throat raw and your body shaking. Not loud, not dramatic. Just grief spilling out wherever it could find space. After a long time, I asked quietly, "Can I ask you something?" He nodded. "Did you want any of it to happen?" He didn't hesitate. "No." The word came out firm, immediate, absolute. And suddenly everything shifted. I felt sick. At myself, at the situation, at the way my mind had tried to frame his trauma as a moral failure instead of what it really was. I asked more questions carefully, gently. He told me more details he hadn't been able to say before, the mystery shots, the pressure not to ruin the party, Oscar telling him. Everything was fine, even when he said he didn't feel right. How familiar some of the women were from the server, people he'd talked to for over a year, people he thought were friends. Friends. The word felt obscene now. I asked him if he wanted to go to the police. He shook his head immediately. "I can't," he said. "I can't handle that. Not right now. I don't want to keep telling this story over and over. I don't want to be questioned, like I did something wrong." I didn't argue. I told him I would support whatever decision he made. We made a doctor's appointment for the next day. Ethan admitted he'd been in pain all week, but was too afraid to go alone. I took time off work without hesitation. The appointment was brutal. Questions, silence, tears. The doctor was calm, professional, kind, but nothing can make that kind of examination easy. Tests were taken, medication prescribed to prevent pregnancy-related risks and infection, instructions given with quiet gravity. When we got back home, Ethan asked if he could stay with me longer. "I don't want to be alone," he said. "You're not," I replied. "You're here." And I meant it. Still, underneath my resolve, a quieter fear began to form, one I didn't yet have the words for. Because trauma doesn't end when the story is told. Sometimes that's when it really begins. The days after the doctor's appointment settled into a strange, fragile routine. Ethan stayed in my apartment almost constantly. He moved his toothbrush into my bathroom. His clothes slowly replaced empty hangers in my closet. It wasn't a formal decision. We never sat down and said, "You're moving in." It just happened, the way survival sometimes does. He didn't go back to work. At first, it was sick days, then unpaid leave. Eventually, he stopped answering his manager's calls altogether. Most mornings, he sat at the kitchen table with a mug of tea growing cold between his hands, staring past the window like the city outside belonged to a different universe. Other days, he stayed in the shower until the water ran cold, scrubbing his skin raw like he could erase memory with friction. "I still feel dirty," he admitted once, voice barely above a whisper. "I know it doesn't make sense." "It does," I said, even though my heart cracked hearing it. "It makes sense." I tried to be careful, not to push, not to smother. I learned to read the smallest cues. The tension in his shoulders meant "don't touch yet." The way his fingers twisted together meant he needed grounding. The hollow look in his eyes meant sleep wouldn't come easily that night. What I wasn't prepared for was how other people would make it worse. It started with Oscar. Ethan's phone rang one afternoon while he was in the shower. I glanced at the screen out of instinct, not suspicion. "Oscar." My stomach dropped. When Ethan came out, towel slung low around his waist, I told him. His face went pale instantly. "He's been calling," he admitted, "texting too." "Why didn't you tell me?" "I didn't want to think about him," he said. "I didn't want to deal with it." I asked if I could see the messages. He hesitated, just for a second, then handed me his phone. There were dozens. Oscar asking if he got home safe. Oscar saying he felt bad Ethan got so drunk. Oscar joking about the party like it was a funny story everyone shared. And then the others. Women who had been there that night. Women who had taken advantage of his confusion. "Did you have fun? When are you gaming again?" Memes, jokes, casual familiarity. It felt like reading messages from people who lived in a different reality, one where nothing wrong had happened at all. Ethan watched my face as I scrolled. "I didn't block them," he said quietly. I kept thinking, maybe I was wrong. Maybe it was my fault. Maybe they didn't mean... I stopped scrolling and took his hands in mine. "No," I said firmly. "What happened to you was not your fault. Not the drinking, not the pressure, not any of it." He broke down when we blocked them together. Oscar first, then the rest, one by one. Each tap felt like cutting a thread that had been poisoning him slowly. "I feel like I'm losing friends," he whispered. "Friends don't do this," I said. "Friends don't laugh while someone can't consent." A few days later, the pressure shifted. Ethan's parents called. They wanted to know why he hadn't been to church in weeks. He lied at first, said work was busy, said he was tired. His mother's voice sharpened immediately, suspicion slipping through concern. "Are you drinking?" she asked. After the call, Ethan sat in silence, guilt written across his face. "They can't know," he said. "They'd blame me. They'd say I sinned, that I put myself in that situation." I didn't argue. I already knew he was right. Then Oscar crossed a line I didn't think even he would dare to cross. He messaged Ethan's mother on Facebook. A long, carefully worded message, concern disguised as kindness. He said Ethan had gotten drunk at his birthday party, that he'd tried to take care of him, that Ethan had left suddenly and stopped responding, that he was worried about Ethan's mental health. He left out everything else. Ethan's mother called within minutes. Her voice was cold. "Why were you drinking?" she demanded. "Why were you at that kind of party?" Ethan tried to tell her the truth. She didn't believe him. She said he was making excuses. She said he had embarrassed their family. She said he needed forgiveness, not accusations. His father followed up with another call. "You need to apologize to Oscar," he said. "He's a good boy. You're destroying his reputation." That was the moment something inside Ethan broke. He stopped answering their calls. When his parents showed up at my apartment unannounced, twice in 1 week, I answered the door alone. "He doesn't want to see you," I said calmly. His father accused me of controlling him. His mother cried and said they just wanted to help. After the second visit, I told them if they came again, I'd call the police. They stopped coming, but the damage was done. Ethan retreated inward. He stopped eating again, stopped showering, stopped responding when I spoke. One night, I woke to find him sitting on the bathroom floor in the dark, knees pulled to his chest, staring at the wall. "They're laughing," he said when I asked what was wrong. "I hear them laughing when I close my eyes." I sat beside him on the cold tile and held him until his breathing slowed. That night, I realized something terrifying. Love can't fix everything. Support can't erase trauma. And standing beside someone doesn't mean you can stop them from slipping away. All I could do was stay, and hope it would be enough. There's a particular kind of silence that only shows up after hope has been stretched too thin. Not the calm kind, not the peaceful kind. The kind that settles into a room and makes everything feel heavier, like the air itself is tired. That was the silence in my apartment during that week. Ethan barely moved. He lay on my bed, staring at nothing, his body present, but his mind somewhere far away, somewhere I couldn't follow, no matter how hard I tried. I brought him food he didn't touch. I spoke softly so I wouldn't scare him further inward. I told myself, this is just another phase, we'll get through it. But deep down, fear had already taken root. One morning I woke up and the bed beside me was empty. For a split second, relief washed over me. He's just in the bathroom, until I noticed the open suitcase by the door. My chest tightened. Ethan was folding clothes with mechanical precision, like someone packing for a long trip they didn't want to take but felt they had no choice about. "What are you doing?" I asked, my voice already shaking. He didn't look at me. "I'm leaving," he said quietly. The words knocked the breath out of my lungs. "Leaving where?" "My aunt's place," he said, "out of state." I stepped closer. "For how long?" He paused, his hands hovering over a folded shirt. "I don't know." I searched his face for something. Certainty, anger, guilt, but all I saw was exhaustion. "Do you want me to come with you?" I asked. The question tasted like fear. He shook his head. "I need space," he said, "from everything." "From me." I swallowed hard. "Are we breaking up?" "I don't know," he said again. "I can't decide anything right now. I just know I can't stay." Every instinct in me screamed to argue, to beg, to remind him of the years we'd built together. But this wasn't about us anymore. This was about survival. So I nodded. "I understand," I said. Even though understanding felt like a lie, my heart wasn't ready to accept. We loaded his car together in silence. In the parking lot, the sun felt too bright, too normal for a goodbye that didn't have a shape yet. "When will I see you again?" I asked. He looked at me like the answer hurt too much to say. "I don't know." Then he hugged me, brief, careful, like he was afraid to take too much comfort and regret it later. And then he drove away. I stood there long after his car disappeared, the engagement ring heavy in my pocket, the future we'd planned dissolving into something uncertain and fragile. The days after he left were worse than the weeks before. At least when he was here, I could see him, touch him, know he was alive. Now all I had were short texts every few days. "I'm okay, I'm safe, I just need time." I didn't push. I went back to work full-time. I smiled at coworkers. I told them he was visiting family. I cried alone at night. Oscar messaged me once. He accused me of spreading lies, said Ethan had made his own choices, said I should blame him instead of everyone else. I blocked him without responding. Some nights, anger burned hotter than grief. I thought about those women laughing, about Oscar twisting the story to protect himself, about parents choosing comfort over truth. Other nights, I just missed Ethan. Missed the way he used to reach for my hand in his sleep. Missed planning our wedding and half jokes and quiet moments. Missed the man he'd been before that night stole him from himself. I put the engagement ring back in its box and slid it into the closet. I didn't know if I'd ever give it to him. I didn't know if he'd ever come back. All I knew was that something irreversible had happened, not just to him, but to us. The darkness wasn't dramatic. It was slow, quiet, unforgiving, and it felt like the end. The turning point didn't come with a confrontation. There was no dramatic phone call, no confession that tied everything neatly together. It arrived quietly, through exhaustion, clarity, and one hard realization I could no longer avoid. 3 weeks after Ethan left, I woke up one morning and noticed something had changed. I wasn't waiting for my phone to light up anymore. That terrified me. Not because I stopped loving him, but because I was starting to understand something I hadn't wanted to admit before. Love alone was no longer enough to hold us in the same place. I sat at my kitchen table, coffee untouched, staring at the spot where Ethan used to sit. The silence didn't feel sharp anymore. It felt still, heavy, but honest. I replayed everything in my mind, not just the night of the party, but what followed. Oscar's manipulation, the women's messages, his parents choosing judgment over protection. Ethan hadn't just been hurt. He'd been abandoned by every system that was supposed to keep him safe. And then there was me. I had stayed. I had supported him. I had believed him. But I had also, without meaning to, become another pressure. Another place where he felt expectations he couldn't meet. Marriage, healing, normalcy. Even love can feel like a demand when someone is drowning. That realization hurt more than anger ever could. Later that day, my phone buzzed. A message from Ethan. "I've been thinking about us." My heart thudded painfully. I don't know if I can be the partner you deserve right now. I stared at the screen for a long time before replying. You don't have to be anything right now, I typed. You just have to be honest with yourself. There was a long pause. Then another message. I feel like I broke something that can't be fixed. And that was the moment clarity finally settled in my chest. Not cruelty, not blame. Truth. What broke wasn't you, I wrote. It was what was done to you. But that doesn't mean we can pretend nothing changed. He didn't respond right away. When he finally did, his message was shorter. I don't know how to come back without hurting you. I closed my eyes. This was the crossroads. I could beg him to return. I could promise patience without limits. I could sacrifice myself quietly and call it devotion. Or I could do the hardest thing love sometimes requires. Let go without turning it into abandonment. Then don't come back yet, I wrote. Heal first. And if one day you want to try again, we'll see where we are. No pressure, no timelines. That night I cried, not because I was losing him, but because I was finally choosing honesty over fear. I took the engagement ring out of the closet. I held it in my palm, feeling the weight of everything it once represented. Then I placed it back in the box. Not as a goodbye, but as an acknowledgement that some love stories don't end in weddings. Some end in respect, in space, in letting someone heal without demanding they stay whole for you. The next morning, I woke up lighter, not healed, but grounded. And for the first time since that night, I felt something that wasn't grief or anger. I felt agency. The fallout didn't explode all at once. It unfolded quietly, the way consequences often do. Slow, inevitable, impossible to outrun. I didn't expose anyone. I didn't post anything. I didn't demand apologies or justice. I simply stopped protecting lies that were never mine to carry. A month after Ethan left, Oscar's name came up in a conversation I wasn't even part of. A mutual acquaintance, someone from the Discord server, messaged me unexpectedly. I don't know what really happened, she wrote, but people are talking. Oscar's been acting defensive. He's angry all the time, keeps telling different versions of the same story. That was how it started. Stories never survive inconsistency. More people from the party began comparing notes. Who was sober, who wasn't, who remembered Ethan saying he didn't feel well, who remembered laughter instead of concern. Someone admitted they'd felt uncomfortable that night, but hadn't spoken up. Someone else mentioned seeing Ethan barely able to stand. The narrative Oscar tried to control began to slip through his fingers. Then came the social consequences. He was quietly removed from the Discord server he'd created. No announcement, just an absence. People stopped responding to his messages. Invitations dried up. No one confronted him directly. They just stepped away. The women involved did the same thing, closing ranks at first, then slowly drifting apart as the shared secret became too heavy to hold together. One deleted her social media entirely, another changed gyms, another moved apartments. Shame has a way of isolating people without ever speaking its name. Oscar tried to reach Ethan again. A new number, a new account. I blocked it before Ethan ever had to see it. Ethan's parents, meanwhile, faced a quieter reckoning. Church friends stopped asking about Oscar. Whispers replaced certainty. Questions replaced judgment. They never apologized, but they stopped calling. That silence spoke louder than any confession. As for Ethan, he didn't come back. Not right away. But he did begin to heal. He started therapy with a counselor his aunt recommended. Someone who didn't question his memory, didn't moralize his trauma, didn't ask him why he hadn't fought harder. Someone who simply said, "What happened to you was real." His texts changed over time. From "I'm sorry" to "I'm tired" to "I'm starting to feel like myself again." And I changed too. I stopped waiting. I filled my weekends with things that didn't ache. I laughed without checking my phone afterward. I remembered who I was before love became survival. When Ethan finally visited, 3 months later, it wasn't dramatic. No airport reunion, no promises. Just two people sitting across from each other at a quiet cafe, hands wrapped around warm mugs, eyes meeting without fear. "I'm not ready for anything," he said. "I know," I replied. "I don't even know who I am yet." "That's okay," I said again. We didn't talk about the future. We talked about books, about therapy, about learning how to sleep without nightmares. When we parted, there was no kiss, just understanding. And that somehow felt like justice, because the people who caused harm were left with fractured friendships, ruined reputations, and the knowledge that the truth doesn't disappear just because you refuse to name it. And Ethan? He was still here, still becoming, still alive. And that mattered more than any ending I could have forced. I used to believe that love meant holding on, tighter, longer, no matter the cost. That if you just stayed, just endured, just believed hard enough, things would eventually return to the way they were. I don't believe that anymore. What I learned is this: love isn't proven by how much pain you're willing to absorb. It's proven by how much truth you're willing to face. Ethan didn't come back to me as my fiancé. Not yet. Maybe not ever. And that used to terrify me. But now, when I think about him, I don't feel panic. I feel respect for his courage to step away from a world that blamed him, and for my own strength in letting him go without turning love into a cage. Trauma doesn't announce itself with clear rules or neat endings. It fractures time. It rewrites identities. It forces people to choose between survival and expectation. Sometimes healing means staying. Sometimes it means leaving. Neither is failure. I don't know what our future looks like. I don't know if we'll find our way back to each other or continue forward on separate paths. What I do know is this: no one owes silence to protect someone else's comfort. No one deserves blame for harm they didn't choose. And love, real love, doesn't demand you be whole before you're allowed to rest. If you're watching this and recognizing pieces of yourself in our story, if you're holding guilt that doesn't belong to you, or staying somewhere that's breaking you because leaving feels like betrayal, please hear this. You are not weak for needing space. You are not cruel for choosing truth. And you are not broken beyond repair just because something was taken from you. Some stories don't end in weddings or revenge or perfect closure. Some end in dignity. And sometimes, that's the bravest ending of all.